walls and what have you are, where it kind of looks like they are, but the walls are solid. Looks like they're just solid concrete or, solid bricks of some type anyway. So, I mean, they were still gonna look for them, but they wanted to run a 3-inch and or a 4-inch or 2 3s out of each bathroom. So they were working on that. I haven't heard how that went yet, but that was, the ladies' side had some pipe over there. The guy's side never did. That's probably why it always kind of had a little odor in. So something else they're chasing, but it was all kind of part of it. So I know, hopefully that doesn't create a lot more work. They did find where the pipes are upstairs, so they were gonna try to find where they could patch into them. Cause they were big enough up there, they could just patch along. Okay, and then, yesterday I had a meeting with ClearGov. And they've actually all talked to Terry too about budgeting and I suspect as long as we've got Chuck around, we may not need them. But, for the budgeting aspect, but they also do, 5-year plannings and stuff like that and stuff that we could actually use to track. Plans that the supervisors want from whether it's secondary roads, so basically secondary roads, 5-year plan. But it's a way for us to track its successes and where it's at on the scale in each year. And we can actually have or that would be on our website, where we could actually have the graphs and the charts that show what we're up to, where our monies are being spent and what we're doing. And, that would be available for public consumption. So they could actually see what we're spending our tax dollars on and all the successes we're having. And, just use the road experiment we're having down there by Easton's. We could be posting something about that, its cost and what its cost and effect could be in the long term. What savings it could, or at least what better road condition, even if it was gonna cost the same as maintaining the gravels of what we're doing now. But if we've got a better road network due to it, to me, that's a win on that as well. But we could use that and control that on the website to where we could actually show that to the public and they could see where their tax dollar grabbing success. And because there's a lot of people have no idea what we're doing in the east or the west side, depending on where we're working on secondary roads, or a lot of the things that go on in this courthouse aren't obvious to the public at large unless they stop by meetings or something or ask us questions. So, I mean, these are things that ClearGov would offer. I told him I'd present it to you guys and see if you were interested in a presentation. He gave me a presentation that lasted, actually, because I had more questions, that probably lasted about 20-25 minutes, I suppose I've been here. But, I mean, it can be that long or less if you guys would want it to be, but I told him I'd reach out to you guys and you guys can think about it, Google it, look it up on the website, their website, ClearGov, and you can get an idea. And if you'd like him to present, I think, cost wise, there was a $2,700 setup to help get it set up. And I suppose you could work with Jake to get that set up. And then it was $8,100 a year after that. So, I mean, you'd have to see if there's something that's gonna bring some value to us and to the taxpayers, because obviously that's another $8,100 to our budget every year.
I talked to you yesterday, you said it would help with preparing budget.
Yeah.
I mean,
In particular, what Terry's program.
Right, we already do that in Tyler though.
So you did the same thing in Tyler?
Well, that's where the budget goes.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we put it into Tyler is a software, yep.
Yeah.
Financial, our payroll, our taxes.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't know if they integrate together. I don't remember. It's been a while since I talked to them.
So we could potentially be duplicating.
Right,
And that's just it, as if.
Right.
you know, I'm not against if it's just can take that Tyler part and put it in there and throw it out on our website with a little bit, I mean, so let's say $8,100 worth of value or not, but that's sort of put a number on
Exactly.
it.
Does Tyler cost us every year or two annually?
yes.
Yeah.
Is there additional things that program can do that maybe?
Right, and I know Michelle said something yesterday that, she would be able to put some of that into an Excel spreadsheet, which could correlate to graphs and charts and things like that, so.
And I mean,
Maybe to do
and it's
some of
just,
that.
it's just potential for it. I mean, I still wouldn't want Terry having to put out anything that she doesn't, you know, that she doesn't think is, you know, positive information, you know, I mean, there's so much in the budget that's in flux all the time, you know, as far as, you know, when you look at the ARPA dollars, it looks like we had a lot of money. You know, in some cases, you know, well, look at all the extra money they got. Yeah, but it's ARPA dollars. It's already spent. It just hasn't got allocated yet because the requests haven't came yet. So don't let that fool you. You know, we're not sitting here hoarding away money, you know. But, I also just thought, you know, to show people, I mean, you know, I show little things on Facebook or whatever, but you know, that's only reaching a small segment. This would be available if they, went to our website and be, you know, with graphs, or we could, I'll probably even put pictures of projects and stuff in there. I mean, I didn't talk to them in deeply in depth.
Did you come across them with the under
They were down at NACO.
NACO?
Yeah. Yeah, and just the things he had to say were, it seemed worthwhile, but it'd be something that we'd have to keep up, you know, and obviously we don't have a clerk, you know, so it would be up to somebody on the board, or, you know, I don't want to tax Terry's crew any more than they're already taxed, you know, so that's the other side of that.
I guess it doesn't cost us anything to hear them out.
No, that's just it, is, I mean, it sounded interesting when they talked to me down there in Austin, so I thought, you know, I'll give them a listen. And he kind of told me the same thing here again, but he was able to show me some, you know, a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint discussion. So I mean, if you guys want to see it, it's worth looking at. I mean, it may not be something we want to spend money on if it don't coordinate with the other programs that people are using, like Terry's Tyler program or something.
Right, if it just duplicates what we're already doing, then it's.
Did he mention other Iowa counties that do it?
Yeah, you know, I know, the one name that sticks out to me, because he kind of used them as his principal example, was Bondurant. It was actually a city, you know, where they were, but he mentioned several different Iowa organizations.
Yeah, that's Polk County.
Yeah. So, I mean, whether it was just the city of Bondurant, and he mentioned several cities, and then talked about some counties that he was doing. I don't know if he was doing this level of work with, or if they were already had the program, you know, trying to prove his point to them. So I don't know, it was something of interest to me, so I just thought I'd share it with you guys. And, that's about all I got right now. Yeah, that's all I got for right now. Kyle, do you have anything for us?
We had a conservation meeting last Wednesday, and the big takeaway of that was we discussed the electrical at Nelson's Park, working on getting that upgraded. And Chris posed me a question yesterday, what's gonna be a number that we're comfortable with? Cause at one time we discussed using ARPA funds to help with that. I think that ship probably has sailed. I think our ARPA funds have all been spoken. Holy cow.
I do that every now and then too.
Work comp, you know, strains and sprains, biggest work comp.
How's your Achilles? You didn't dare, did you?
I don't, I'm not sure where we're at with that. Give it some thought though, cause.
What were they thinking for the total cost?
Well, the electrical's gonna, I would think, be way less than what we originally talked about when we were talking about a total remodel of the campgrounds. That's maybe possible yet, but, and like I said, we might have to do it in a couple of year phases,
Yeah, there you go.
which would be probably something to just budget for. We continue to get phone calls about not having 50 amp service out there. Most all new campers got so much electrical going on, they require 50 amps, and everything, there's like 350 amp spots out there, the rest are all 30 amp. And probably dated back to 1964 when they put them in, so
Good point.
time to maybe upgrade it a little bit, so enhance the camping experience.
Make it more like home.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of them campers are like, oh,
So I'll talk to Chris about that, see if he can get like a total project cost, and then we can decide if that's something that we can swing in one budget
How many
year.
camper sites are out there?
35 or 36 total. That's even, I think that counts the ones down by the beach. So, you know, and I don't think we need to do all 35 or 36. I almost think we could probably maybe eliminate a few of them, because I don't know if they're ever full, excluding maybe the Carlson camp out. The Carlson clan takes over the whole campground. I still question if they're full. But they do average some pretty decent numbers out there for that, for the camp. I think if they had some upgrades, it might even do pull their numbers a little higher. Just for nights of camping. Any other questions on that?
No. I
And
think
then
it's a
the
good
rest of the
idea.
week, there's been just a lot of phone tag with KR and Erica and Tracy and the FSA office working on the agenda item there at the county farm. And try to keep you guys all informed too, going on there, so talk about that later.
Is that all you got?
How far down the line are we?
Well,
A ways.
it's a ways down there.
Yeah, we don't have times on here, so.
Okay, but like.
I would say 10:30-ish.
Right.
Yeah. Ish, always leave an ish in there. Mr. Mulbauer.
Okay, I had last week 3 different meetings, and we started at 2 o'clock in Carroll with the Development Corporation was the first one. That's one with the meat and loan fund, bean poultry intermediate loan fund. We did approve the West Liberty for $10 million out of this 15 million, meat and poultry USDA loan fund. We were hesitant at first and we needed to have more details about it. What it ended up, what they were requesting is they have a facility in Illinois that they want to totally revamp. And that was our big hangup. That was in Illinois. It was in our jurisdiction to do that as a region. And what they want to do is completely remodel this facility so it is state of the art. Sandwich making, slicing the food up, and what it does is it makes sandwiches, and it's crazy, the less hands that are on these sandwiches, the longer shelf life they have. And they're kind of like your gas stations or your Walmart is some of them where they you go in and they're pre-made sandwiches. The thing that we found out that why we approved it is over 90% of the growers are in Iowa. And because West Liberty is a co-op, the growers are owners of West Liberty. So in same token, if we don't do anything and they can't be competitive in the market, potentially those growers could go out of business. They said, yes, this facility will be in Illinois, but we are an Iowa company, we're Iowa owned, we're Iowa growers. That was their best option. We want to grow our footprint in Iowa as farmers, producers. We just need this facility to be competitive, and they're looking at some larger contracts and some things that they're getting into that they think they'll be very, very successful with this facility. And so with all that coming to light, we passed that.
Okay.
Was there any other applications? Dave? I mean,
We've had very few, there's some lockers and some things like that wanted to expand and
the number would be smaller,
a
though.
lot smaller.
So I mean, there's still some money left to
Oh, yeah, when
help assist them.
and actually, with some of our other funds, getting it out and getting it used is a good thing, because then when the USD, we go for more loan applications, or we file for more funds, they say, oh, they got it out and working, it's out and doing something, and we're looking at that actually becoming something down the road where we should receive more funds and can, if we're utilizing, but if you sit on it and you don't get it moving and working,
Take it back.
USD looks at us and say, well, they're not doing nothing with it.
Mhm. Good.
So I think that'll be a good thing in the long run. I think it'll very solidify the co-op that they have and help to grow our footprint in Iowa and help the farmer producers and owners that are raising these turkeys. The other thing, they had a loan application for Rolling Real Estate. We approved that. They are a housing development company up in Jefferson. And he's been building condos, duplexes, going into our region and helping with the housing market. It's a good thing to get him out building homes.
Yeah,
As we all know, our housing shortage.
correct.
After that, we had our executive board meeting, boarding with all the details, where we had our fiscal report, trans report, local assistant report, and executive director report. That's all here. Just kind of business as normal. The transit report, of course, we're waiting on 4 new buses, which all that is back ordered. And we did get word that we are gonna get them. It's just when. It's just kind of sign of the times. And then after that, we had our government housing meeting. And a lot of that was just paperwork, housekeeping, approving some assistant plans, trust fund grants. Went over our fiscal report for that, kind of went over some of our housing projects within the area. I've got all those numbers here. The CDBG housing fund projects, once they are all finished, there will be no more because that grants have all expired and they're all done. But I can pass that around and show you guys if you want to look at the housing projects. Some like Manella's got home for Iowa house going in, and then also has a duplex going in. It's all part of these housing projects. And it's not just, it's all around our region. So it's well serving our region. The other thing we went to, Ty and I went to the 50th anniversary for Region 12, which was pretty amazing. I thought it was a good turnout,
Good speakers.
good speakers. Just to see the history of what they've done over the last 50 years and where they've started with just housing or transit or, all the things they've done. Workforce development, we don't have that anymore. That went back to state. They had 40 years of being the fiscal agent for workforce development. Long history with them. I did disagree a little bit with our NATO speaker. And I agree that he said the Region 12 is all of ours. And we got that. But he said it's not Rick Hunsaker, it's not Region 12, which I agree with. But we have one hell of a director that
He does a great job.
he does a great job. Make sure that we're getting our hands on funds and all these programs that we can then administer in our region, or, if you get a director that sits back and isn't as aggressive, just like Paul with secondary roads. I mean, you gotta be up at the trough to
That's right.
get fed.
Mhm. You're not wrong, Rick, his shoes will be hard to fill.
Yeah.
Hopefully he lasts another 25 years. I got you, it was 30 years he's been here.
Yeah.
30.
That would be the last 20.
We could wait.
We could win. He might like the job enough.
And it was kind of neat.
Got a guy in here that.
They were showing through a slideshow. I don't know if you caught that. They were showing all the past president, our chairmans of the board, and Eric was showing, he has a picture on there, and your Grandpa Louis, just kind of see all, the history of it.
Yeah.
It was a good turnout. We sat at a table together, and we got to kind of pick Adam Schweer's ear over
Oh, yeah.
Highway 30. And
Yep.
just a good all-around good event.
Yeah, I actually get that.
Yeah.
Had a good flashlight on it, too. Well, you had a nice flashlight, too.
Well, I got it working.
How did you fix it? You tore the front apart. Anyway,
That's all I got.
okay, Mr. Dozer.
Moving I had with Wesco meeting last night. And like I said, everything continues to go well at Wesco. One of the things that they are running into is, vehicle repair. Is that they have a pretty good size, their fleet is 57 vehicles, believe it or not, and, they don't, wanna buy anything new. I mean, just because of the cost of new, so they usually are buying stuff. Now they're trying to replace things that are 2013 and older. But, the repair expense, as we've all seen, anything has gone up substantially. And so, they also have had, I guess, a couple of car accidents. So they're looking at maybe putting in some dash cams moving forward in a few vehicles, see if, what kind of information they get back from that to see if, you know, they need to do some more training with their employees that are doing the bulk of the driving.
The Yes Center put in, what a Verizon, what they call hums or what? Through Verizon, but it records, and it's amazing how many less speeding tickets and stuff that'd be an issue. If it, what notify them to Verizon? Yeah, I think it's called hum, I think, but,
HUM?
yep, and, it notifies whoever, director or staff, that immediately if somebody's doing something wrong as far as speeding, like seatbelt usage, stuff of that nature. So
I wonder how cost effective that is. I've tried
it's
different
been-
things
it's been
out there
effective for,
and put tracking and stuff on my trucks and things that are supposed to do that. Oh my God, they're so expensive.
the only thing with the Yes Center, is they're driving from here to Wyoming to pick up somebody. So I mean, I don't think
Right.
Wesco would have, it'd be more local. So I don't know if that would be the answer, but dash cams would probably, at least the CYA part of it.
Okay.
And the other thing, I guess, we're all pretty familiar with that they have the, bake shop uptown. And they just replaced the part-time baker recently, and now that one is leaving, so they have to go through it. Oh, try to find a new one there, and from, I've mentioned previously about them moving forward with over a 5-year plan of replacing the 15 homes that they use here in town, and so they've started discussions with local banks and with an attorney, to see what they're gonna do moving forward. And I know this weekend they have their disability 5K walk. But they think maybe moving forward from, they got a really good response on their duck race that they had down the Dwyer, and they raised, what, a little over $8,500. Half of it went to the winner, half of it went to a charity of their choice, and they chose the fairgrounds, building their new ring, and so
Cool. Nice.
they had a lot of the public really enjoyed that, and actually asked them, I guess, if they could do that on a monthly basis, could you do it quarterly, instead of annually, so they're looking at ways, since they bought the ducks,
Yeah.
they own them, moving forward, that maybe that will be more of their fundraiser versus the walk. The walk is kind of, I think, in popularity is, when you do something for a long time,
Yeah.
over time, tends to be not as popular,
Some
so.
duck race does sound kind
How
of.
does that work with the ducks? So you have
I didn't
so many
see it.
investors
Right,
buy a duck and then you
Right.
get people.
right, exactly.
If we don't get any more rain, we might wanna have
Well,
a.
it might be a duck run.
Yeah.
Down the river.
Dry run.
Right.
That's sad.
It is sad.
And I did, last night at our meeting, I mean, Pam Sossman is one of our board members also, so.
Yeah.
I know I've mentioned before about Children's Imagination Station and them wanting to improve and upgrade their playground. And I think the city's gonna move forward when they replace Kids Castle. They're a block away from each other. And I would think that Pam even agreed to that. I'm sure there has to be a way where we can either utilize the new park that the city is going to use instead of walking away, but walking down the block, or from a bidding process, you know, let's bid the two together. So, we can reduce some costs moving forward. I think when we're, you know, all tax asking entities, we need to be able to work together in this, I think, from a public's perspective, to see what you guys are doing this, and you're a block away, and, you know, can we have some coordination together? So I'll mention that at their next 2018 meeting.
That's a good point. I mean, at least it would be out in the public eye that we are collaborating
Exactly.
together. And if we can't put our money for one playground, at least the public would understand that, hey, you know, with the childcare, there's certain restrictions that have to be fenced.
Right, and I don't know what those are,
You know,
that's what I wanted to ask.
Boy, it'd be too bad though if you couldn't utilize a block away.
It's,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Even if you built a bridge that went, over, kids don't, you know, take them there. But I think they gotta have them in a fenced area for them imagination station, cause them kids are small.
Well, you know, and it all depends on what the city does moving forward. I mean, they might have a fenced in area for, I think they're looking at, I wanna say phases, but different age group in the playground. So, hey, this is designed for 2 to 4-year-olds. This part of it is designed for 5 to 8-year-olds. This part, you know, so maybe that area where a children's imagination station age group would use would be fenced in.
Yeah.
I know I've seen them around Manning and Manal with the daycare where they'll take the kids for a walk and go to a park, or they'll go to the library or, you know, different programs. So I think it's possible for them to walk across the street.
Yeah,
Yep, great point. Well, you know, Paul's always talking about collaborating, like what it did to collaborate to get that bridge. I mean, they had success with creating that bridge, you know, but it's good that our public entities work together, you know, it's for the greater good of the communities at large.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's all I got.
Okay. Gene, can you hear us? We're looking for an update on Broadway.
I can
Here
hear
she-
you, finally. You had me muted for most of the meeting. I had to finally call in and find out why I can't hear anything. So you're looking for an update on Broadway?
No, I'm just giving you, I'm just ribbing you. Did
Oh.
you have anything you wanted to bring before the board on the supervisor's minutes?
Oh, I don't think you want to hear anything about what I've done this week so far. But I have been keeping informed from various folks on what's going on with the pipeline. So I'm looking forward to hearing that discussion later on in the agenda. I'm just kind of sitting here listening, paying attention, and we'll see what you guys decide. I'll be back. Yeah, as soon as I get back, we'll have to start working on my barbecue fest stuff. So it's going to be a busy week going forward too. So yeah, sounds like everything's going good back there.
Okay, yeah, everything's going good. I was actually at the barbecue fest meeting last Wednesday. I won't be able to make tomorrow's meeting, but I'm gonna go over there and talk to Paul and Mariah a little bit today. They're cooking along pretty good.
Yep, I'll be home today, so, or out actually this evening, so it'll be back to normal tomorrow.
Okay, well, I didn't wanna ignore you and leave you out this morning. Thought I'd-
Appreciate that.
All righty,
I'm very
ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You bet. I really didn't have anything else. We got a couple minutes
I got a
before.
question.
Okay,
When it brought up the ARPA funds, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but when we agreed with that 750,000,
Mhm.
have we got any requests from the city of Denison yet, Terry? For funding to help pay stuff?
Jody had emailed me, a few weeks ago, asking about, the county's portion and, how we wanted to do that. Did we want to pay those vendors directly? Did we want the city to pay them and we would reimburse them? That kind of stuff. So,
Well, and I'm not, we can do whatever we want, but I do remember that when we did that, we said we would pay that once the project was a go.
yeah.
I mean, have we got an official word? Are they still trying to round up the funding, or are they getting ready to break ground? Oh, I assume
I think they're ready to break ground, but they are, the commitment, they got a contract from the state for the $4.5 million. that saves money. So that's a commitment.
They met that commitment.
They met that requirement.
Good.
They were,
Hey, Gene, do you know, Gene? You've been on the meetings there. They getting close?
I
to
have. Yes, we are. Things are looking really good. That last push of getting the funds we needed in order to get that $4 million, that was successful. So things are looking real good. As you know, things with government move a little bit slow, but it's looking good.
So would that be, Terry, how would you rather have it paid directly to the contractors or providers, or would you rather have the city of Denison, once them start coming in? It's gonna be easiest.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it might be
Or do we even need to talk to our auditor and how to clean that money through, so it don't look like we're just.
No, I don't know that it matter. I asked her, I said, if we're gonna pay you, we still need to see those claims.
Yeah.
We need to see those original invoices. Even if we're going to pay the
And-
city.
And they would have that all, and they've been keeping track of it. So once it's time, they'll get it all to us, I'm sure.
Okay, all right.
Just so you guys realize, I am not on Broadway. I am up in the Adirondacks, so I can give you an update on that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place, yeah.
Well, that's all I
Yeah,
was just thinking of that.
so,
Okay, Paul? No,
No.
he's in Oregon. And we got people on one coast or the other from this county today or this week. All right, thanks, Gene. That answers your question, Kyle?
Sure.
Yep, no, that did answer my question.
Okay, and the only other thing I did last week was my freight advisory council, which is not really part of this job, but it affects a lot of things that I do on this job. And we actually had some great discussion about the railhead and new co-op does a lot of, they've been hauling a lot of beans down to put them in containers and it's going overseas. And they're frustrated with the lack of transfer points where they transfer freight from trucks to train or trace over even like the barge set, the thing over there, they recently built there and along over in Monona County anyway. And it was very interesting. And, you know, it kind of made me think of some different things that we've actually had discussions with people that have wanted to build warehouses in this county and, you know, the railheads and stuff like that. So that's something I'm gonna be addressing with Paul here. You know, I mean, we're actually in a pretty good location for something like that. We do have the UP. I mean, if that would be something that would require a lot more rail cars, well, I don't know, just if there's somebody wants to do something, I mean, just something else to search out for. They did have a guy from Kansas City and a big railhead down there, and he actually works with an outfit down there that's actually out of Canada, but they're huge. It's just listening to the things that they do and the commodities moved, and just seemed pretty interesting. Just different things like that. We'd actually discussed about some of the rail situations that we have here. You know, that was one of the things you brought up when you first came back. And so I'm just, those are some of the discussions I had down there. Anyway. It is after 9:45 now. Let's go ahead and move on to our comments, related. Now, this is about the Henningsons switching from swine to bovine. Look at that, using them nice scientific terms. Make sure.
Porcine.
Yeah. Porcine, yeah, there you go. That's even better, yeah. Anyway, we weren't real sure of the process, but this is all part of that exchange over now. Okay, so it's a discussion, take action, comments related to the Henningsen Farm CAFO site conversion from swine facility to beef facility. Okay, have we had any comments or?
None have been brought to nothing reported at the auditor's
I haven't
office.
heard anything.
Same here. If anything, I think people are excited for them to be able to utilize a facility rather than
Have it sit in.
sit empty.
Yeah, I actually spoke to him, last night at the membership, the cattlemen's membership thing, and he's pretty stoked about all this thing, so. I guess then we need to move forward with the take action
Need action.
on the approve it.
We already,
Just that there were no comments.
There were no comments.
Yeah,
So hearing no comments, then it would be up for a vote to approve it or?
yes,
thought we already.
need action.
Right.
You did, but it originally hadn't gotten published.
We had to publish it to
So
have
we're
a comments period.
making it official by redoing. We've published it and now we're taking action on the comments.
Cheryl, make that motion to approve.
Mr. Mulbauer
I'll second.
makes-
I'll second.
Gene, great, yeah, thank you, Gene. Mr. Mulbauer makes a motion to approve the, move from swine to beef, I suspect. That's how how should we word this motion?
Yes, that's what it says. It's gonna say just like comments related, yeah, that's
Okay.
all it's gonna say.
Since this is a new thing for us to do here, hopefully we've got a bunch of them, or several of them in the future anyway. Anyway, so approve, Mr. Mulbar makes a motion to approve moving this from swine to a beef facility at the Henningsen Farms Cato site. Capo site, excuse me. And Ms. Hayden seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Okay. Recognize the retirement. There he is. Okay. Recognize the retirement of Bayou the Canine.
And Jim's
Going to get some stuff.
gonna personally keep it himself.
There comes Kate Bayou.
Bye. So if he comes over and can start sniffing.
I wish I was there.
Jane's-
I'm so sorry I'm not there. He can sit in my chair if he wants to.
She's been with us for 10 years and she's 14. So I think it's high time she retires. I'd like to have her come to my house and retire at our house. If that's okay with you guys. So,
So you will assume the care and responsibility of the great service done by you.
I would.
You got
Aw.
a trade of, no catfish, don't you?
Well, I haven't taken her fishing, but she might go now.
Yeah.
So, anyway, she's well done what her job was supposed to do. We've taken in about 35,000 in forfeiture funds, maybe a little more, and dope was in 40 pounds or a little more. But she's done the job that we needed her to as a tool. We have 2 dogs. Corey gave her up about 5 years ago, so each of us had her for about 5. But Corey had moved on and he didn't want to buy it, or they didn't want to buy it at that time, so I took on the responsibility and went and training and got it done. And we kept her for that 5 years.
Okay.
Because she was donated from the community, actually. I think we did a drive and we did some money, but she's probably been the longest canine we've had. So,
Do we need a motion or something to retire her?
I wish I could see her.
I didn't know if you did or not. and it wasn't
I'm
on here.
just giving you guys, just letting you know what I'd like to do with her. And she'll retire ahead of me, so that makes me feel a little better.
She's only 14.
She's only 40. How the heck do you do that?
We sure appreciate all the work you've done with her and deputies, job she's done.
Yep, and like I say, we've done a lot of school, going through and just go through the buildings with her, both Dennis and I, probably 2 or 3, 4 times a year. Our Weeva, Boogie Valley and Dunlap we went through, and Woodbine, we went down and did that, as well as having different programs for the kids. And that was what is nice for her. We did it with the Isaac Walton League, and several others have wanted us to do it.
I remember when you first got her, you came in here and you put a sticker under the
Oh, yeah,
desk.
little smell of dope.
Yep.
And she went after it.
She went all over.
Yep. She's slowing down. You can see it in her.
Yeah.
And I guess I was looking it up because I talked to Dan the other day and I wasn't sure what the age would be, but it sounded like 10 to 14 years is about what a mental wall is. So she's 14. So it's time for her to relax and thank you guys for the opportunity to have the canines, because that's a tool for us, guys.
You bet.
And, of course, the Supreme Court always fights with us a little bit, changes things, but we just have to overcome it and figure it out.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Bayou.
We also got a plaque.
I have to figure out a way to clap on this thing. I can't clap.
Buttons, Gene, on the bottom, the clapping. There you go.
Did you see me clapping? All right, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Beautiful animal.
Thank you.
Then they
They
made
got her
her
a
a treat, so she's probably gonna eat here in about 2 minutes. Hey, you might not like me, buddy. Oh, yeah.
Hopefully she's not allergic.
I just want to say that the auditor's office has helped me right from the beginning. We come in and the girls always help hide the dope just for a little practice before we got our training facility out
You
there. So the girls were always here to help and it really helped immensely. So thank you, auditor's office.
Put the girls in with you. One of the girls, auditor's office, put in there, so we can take a picture.
Okay, you know.
I'm sure.
Yes, right.
Where can you picture with the supervisors too, Jim?
Yeah, that'd be fine. If we can get you guys in, I'd like to. Okay. Come on, guys.
Let's do these guys first and then we'll do
Okay.
supervisors.
That's fine.
Here, let's do these guys first and we'll do the supervisors.
Never already-
I'm not out there, though.
Never already.
Sorry, it's okay, you're all right. Just a little bit. Yeah, right there. Okay.
One over here, one here, one here.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
Oops, didn't get to that one. She's, getting gummed up with peanut butter, I think. She really is, she's, so.
She'll be licking her roof of her mouth.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, this year's the. Come here.
Colin's up in Hurry.
Drugs.
She's not gonna look, Jim.
Right, can't hear me.
There we go.
There you go.
Nice
smile. Got it.
There we go. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Just listening to my meeting.
Yeah.
So Dan, you tell Gordon, thanks, he said we need to make some news for you to vote in.
Thanks, Jim.
Right up here.
Dennison High School is here too. David.
Well, I don't have any, Dan don't have anything to write about. I said he got a degree. So there we go. We got it something.
There's no retirement package.
Like, that's very.
Oh, she was probably reading.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you bringing that
Yeah,
up.
she's here too. She's got
Oh,
a presentation for the Dennison High School.
Gotcha.
That's what you want to say to the board. Okay.
Thank you for having her. And we could use 4 more.
Yeah.
They have helped us a lot to keep the drugs down at school. And by having the dogs visible has helped clean the community up a lot.
Oh,
So,
good.
and the kids, we want them to see the dog. She's retired now, so I'm gonna. Don't bother a working dog.
Yeah.
So Jake Fink and Mr. Mart of our business, or our industrial art class made this plaque.
Yeah, they're actually.
K-9 Bayou started working for Dennison Sheriff's Department 2013 at 4 years old. She officially retired on September 12, 2023. The community school district thanks you, Bayou, for your 10 years of service. Born to love, trained to serve, loyal to the end. And it has pictures of the sheriff.
That's nice.
Outstanding.
I'm gonna clap again.
Jim.
He's getting a little misty. He didn't want you to see that.
For me personally,
in my pocket and keeping that one.
That sounds good.
I volunteer at the Carroll Animal Rescue League, and dogs are very important to me, so this is for me. We got all sorts of toys. And puppets. Yes, oh, enjoy your retirement, I'm jealous. Thank you. All right.
No, we gotta figure it out. Really, put in 14 years before retirement.
Yes,
98.
That's it.
You got it figured up already, 98 years, yeah, service.
My dog already is 18 years.
Yes, it's the right time.
That's pretty good. I'm looking 14 years old.
It's expensive.
They drive up to Marley with a four-wheeler,
But we have
run it over, you don't hear it, you don't see it.
Bob on the other hand.
They did,
No, Melvin.
No.
Melvin.
Outstanding.
Dealer, but he's a little.
They got all sorts of monitoring, but they'll.
All right.
Thank you, lady. Appreciate it.
So we get a dog on Jeremy's back for he retires.
Okay, moving on. We have discussion with Maureen Hanson. Ma'am, if you'd like to come forward, this chair here, and you can swing another chair around there. For your,
Nate.
he is the district director for the 3rd Judicial District, Department of Corrections and Services.
I'm happy to be here after everybody's smiling and then good after that, so good timing for my presentation.
Floor is yours, ma'am.
And it's just a presentation. I'm not asking for any money. I'm not bringing forth any concerns whatsoever. I'm really thankful. Nate Balder here is the probation parole officer for Crawford County. Nate spends a lot of time here. He offices here, and we appreciate just the space and the opportunity that we have to keep him in the community here to serve the population and the clients of Crawford County. And the reason I'm coming to the Board of Supervisors meetings for the counties is just to hear any questions or concerns that you have. In July, there was a realignment of government organizations, and the 3rd Judicial District Department of Correctional Services became Iowa Department of Corrections 3rd District. And with us being part of the Iowa Department of Corrections, now our board is an advisory board and not a working board as far as approving most of our business. And so I just wanted to share some information that is specific to just kind of giving you some information about our community corrections, and then sharing some additional information specific to Crawford County. And if you have questions, please just ask as I'm talking. So in total, within the state of Iowa, there are 8 districts and there are 9 prisons. And 8 prisons are for men and 1 prison for women, which is in Mitchellville. And the population at the end of August was 30,498 on community supervision, 1,367 in residential facilities, and 8,307 in prison. And that is, the prison population is above capacity, and kind of hovers around that 8,000.
Has that been consistent over time to 8,000 roughly?
It has,
Last
other than
decade, or-
COVID, yeah,
Okay.
but it's been in the 8,000
I'll go back.
range. Mhm.
There you go.
In the 3rd district, we have 16 counties in northwest Iowa. And so if you think about the map, it's Kasuth County is kind of our northeast over to Lyon County, south to Crawford, and then it kind of zigzags. And we have 2 offices. We have a Sheldon office, which covers the top 10 counties in our district, and then our Sioux City office covers the bottom 6. and Crawford County is covered through our Sioux City office. We're really thankful that Nate lives in the area, and so he's able just to spend quite a bit of time here. Most of his office days are in the counties rather than in Sioux City, and we appreciate that greatly. For our population on 8/31/23, we had 2,819 clients on supervision within our district, within those 16 counties. The classes that we offer throughout our whole district are sex offender treatment program, anger class, a class that we call ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. It's a cognitive-based class. And then the Iowa Domestic Abuse Program is facilitated by outside agencies at this time. We have specialty courts. We have drug court in Clay, Dickinson, Plymouth, and Woodbury counties, and we have a veterans court in Woodbury County. What's most concerning that I have found for the counties has been our capacity in our residential facilities, because if somebody's waiting to get to the RTF, they're usually sitting it out in jail. And that has that impact on the local counties of just, usually we have about a 3-month wait. So if somebody gets arrested and then by the time they go through the court process, really it's their sentencing date that starts that 3-month wait. So they might have been in the jail for a longer period of time. And we do know and recognize the impact on our jails. We have 2 residential facilities in Sioux City. One facility has 57 beds and it's an all-male facility. And that population is for men coming out of prison or on parole status, or our sex offenders and housed there while they're getting their treatment. And then the South facility has 42 beds, 16 beds are for women and 26 beds are for men. And that male population in the South facility would be for probation clients and for those that were sentenced to the OWI continuum. So they do their prison time at the facility rather than in prison. So that's kind of where the backlog comes from, is only having 26 beds available for probation clients, which is the majority of who is sitting in the county jails. And we've done different things to try to, it's trying to find that sweet spot of having an efficient program that's not too lengthy, but long enough that you're doing some good. We don't want to just house them and kick them out. We want to make sure they're getting the programming that they need while they're there, which is mostly substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, sex offender treatment.
Are those beds, is there like juvenile detention, there's a set number of beds for the state? Is that number dictated by the state too? Is
No.
like- So if you funding and staffing, you could up those numbers if you had to, right? I mean, it's not like there's 256 probationary beds in the state and you only have 26 of them.
Right.
And Polk County's sitting there with 150 and they only use 50 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's how juvenile detention seems to work.
No, in the adult system, each judicial district has a different number of beds, kind of dependent upon the population and their budget for their district.
So when you were talking about leaving them in our jail, that's after they've been sentenced and everything? I'm curious because Jim's greatest complaint, I guess you would say, is the hospital costs and all that for inmates, and those. Now, after they've been sentenced though, does the state assume that at that point, or are we still paying for that?
You are still paying for that.
Okay, yeah,
The
that's,
state is backed up, but as long as they're housed in our county, we're paying more.
Their status is probation, and so their clients of the community. That originated in, the convictions originated in your county.
Mhm.
And so we understand that kind of the dynamic.
So even if someone from Crawford County goes to the facility in Sioux City,
mhm.
the bill gets sent to Crawford County?
No,
No.
Now,
once
we
they're
leave.
in Sioux City,
Okay.
the bill goes to the client. Yeah, once they're in the program, they're responsible for their own bills. In the residential facility program, they work, they do their treatment programming, but they pay rent to be there, they pay for all of their medical bills, they pay for all of their treatment bills themselves.
Does state kick in anything at that point?
We have not for, so we are state funded. Our community corrections has a budget for all of our staff and for our residential facilities.
So I guess I could ask, at a county level, I mean, if they don't have to pay once they're in the program, like at the state level, and they're paying their way through,
Mm-hmm.
the state don't have to cover any medical costs, why do we?
Good question.
But her pay grade, I guess.
No, or if they can work
We're
off their
just trying to
expenses and their food. I mean, if the state gets away without charging it back to them, why can't the county do the same thing?
But you know, the thing is out of all the gym's expenses, you never hear them complain about anything other than inmate care,
Right,
meals and then mostly the hospitalization costs, you know,
Right.
almost everything's an ER cost, which, you know, Aaron does give it at a Medicaid rate, but I mean, still, it's an expense on the county, on his budget, you know, it just frustrates him, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. So I mean, I'm sure you guys, that's probably the first time you've heard it, but.
well, one of the pieces that I would say is associated with that is their ability to be covered by the Affordable Care Act or insurance. So if they're working for an employer where they have insurance, then that pays for their medical. And if they don't have insurance through an employer, then because they're on probation but not in jail, they're eligible for coverage through the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
And so then that's covered that way. And we do have some of our population, those that are coming out of prison that are on state work release or your OWI clients are both considered prison inmate status yet. And so they are not eligible for coverage through the Affordable Care Act. And so they're on self-pay. But a person who is in jail for that encompasses a full calendar month, then is no longer eligible for benefits. So if they come into jail and say they're incarcerated for 30 days, but it doesn't encompass a full calendar month, they can retain any benefits that they had coming into jail. But once they've hit that full calendar month mark, then they lose any benefits that they might have had prior to that.
All right.
Yeah, we totally understand, and that's why I want to be just forthright with you and understanding that that is the impact on county jails. Usually is that waiting list for the RTF. These people are waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's costing the jail money. And I recognize that. And whatever areas that we can do to help relieve that, that we would like to do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks.
In our last fiscal year, we served 379 clients between both facilities, with 46 escapes from the facilities.
46 escapes, so were they apprehended after they escaped, or, you know, did
Some,
they actually escape and are still on?
well, it sounds, I mean, escape sounds, maybe a little more exciting than what it is. Most of the time, they just sign out to go to work and don't return. it's not they're not
Work out.
locked in, yeah,
It's a work
they're not,
release
So
type.
they're not
right.
considered,
They're not on the FBI top 10.
I'm gonna say they're probably not
they're not like
hard
what's going
criminals
on
at
out
the
in
worst case.
Pennsylvania right now.
Right.
It varies. I mean, if they're being released from prison, they've served, well, it takes a little bit to get to prison.
Yeah.
And probation clients tend to be younger, maybe a little more impulsive. And you see that happen. Sometimes it's, they get a first paycheck and they have some money and then go, or a lot of different reasons, but that's an area we want to focus some attention in as well, of trying to mitigate that from happening.
Okay.
Then the average length of time on supervision, probation was 20.8 months. Parole, so they're coming out of prison, was 16.7 months, and special sentence 43.45 months. Special sentence is classification for sex offenders, so they're either on a 10-year or a lifetime supervision. And then the only numbers that I have regarding recidivism, so revoked to prison, I don't have any stats on maybe somebody coming back before the court and getting jail time and then terminated from probation or having it dismissed. I only have the numbers where they violated their supervision and then returned to prison. And so for our district, probation revocation for last fiscal year was 5%. Parole was 15% and special sentence was 12%. And that's for our whole district. And then I put together just some numbers that were specific to Crawford County, letting you kind of know like who's living in your communities here. As of September 1st, there were 57 individuals on supervision to our district living in in Crawford County. 7 of them were on parole, so they've been to prison and released and now are on parole supervision. 46 on probation and 4 were in an other status, which could mean a variety of different things. And then with those that are on supervision, we supervise them according to their risk and need level. So the lower the number, the lower the risk and needs. And some clients are even on paper supervision. That means they're just very low risk, but maybe they needed to complete substance abuse treatment. So we just make sure that they follow what the court said. As soon as they complete it, we put in for discharge and then they're discharged. So yet there were 3 individuals on paper supervision, 12 on level 1 supervision, 25 on level 2. Excuse me. And if you levels 3, 4, and 5, so level 3 is like you meet them once a month. So that's your pretty standard probation. So these are the numbers you really want to pay attention to on like, this is the numbers of higher risk people in your county. So there are only 8 individuals on a level 3 supervision, 5 on level 4, which may include new cases, and then only 4 clients on level 5. So I think that's pretty good for your county. And then just the other bit of information is kind of tied to the business from the county attorney's office. The number of people that were convicted in Crawford County that are on supervision to our district. So maybe they're not on supervision in Crawford County, maybe they're on supervision somewhere else in our county. There were no A felonies, 4 B felonies, and those were mostly for robbery first, sex offense, or ongoing criminal conduct. C felonies, there are 16, And the most common charges were theft first, burglary second, robbery second, sex offenses and drug related. D felonies were 29, domestic abuse, drug related, sex offenses or OWI third. There was one felony enhancement, which was drug related. 20 aggravated misdemeanors, mostly related to drugs, attempted burglary or operating a motor vehicle without owner's consent. Serious misdemeanors were 8. Those were for assaults, drug related or OWI first. And then 9 special sentence, 4 of are on lifetime supervision and 5 are for 10-year supervision. So your county attorney's office has been pretty busy. And I think very appropriate, if you look at the number who are on supervision, it includes, you know, parole and probation, both. So you want to put people on community supervision that kind of have a higher level of charge, but not so high that they shouldn't go to prison. So I think the numbers are reflect, a really good job from the county attorney's office of getting people, where they probably should be.
Perfect. We have pretty good staff over there in that county attorney's office. Oh, I work. And I mean that. They do a great job. Everybody do work together well.
So Marina, I'm just curious, I guess, the changes that you mentioned up front as far as the board is concerned, moving to an advisory role. Is there any other changes, I guess, that with that happening that's gonna affect you guys from a funding or budgeting or your ability to do what you do, or?
We're working through setting, goals, statewide goals, to be set as a whole system for the Department of Corrections. So that includes the judicial districts and the institutions together to work as one seamless system. And so we're in the process of that. We're also really, since this started in July, there's just been a lot of focus on policies that need to get rewritten and attention to, and all of the personnel issues that just, there's so many, becoming a state employee in that aspect, they're just, I mean, we've been state employees, but now we're under the state system, and that has quite a few changes related to that. So as far as what the future holds, we're working on that.
Mr. Mulbauer.
Maureen, now that we are, because I have Craig's role of voting member, but now he's advisory member.
Right.
How many are voting member? How many are on the board, and who is that makeup now?
Our board hopefully will still remain, our advisory board will still remain as a supervisor from each of the 16 counties and representatives from the judicial. So we have two members that are from the judicial branch in our district. And so we hope to continue that. And basically, when we meet, it's me like providing updates on here's kind of our business and what we've been
So who's
doing.
making those decisions now that
The Iowa Department of Corrections is making those
they
decisions.
pass them down to you rather than having a board meeting and voting on things?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted just to keep this, I really appreciated the board that we have, and that relationship of just, that level of communication and hearing local concerns and working through issues together that way. So this is why I'm coming to the counties now, is I really want to keep that level of communication open. And just to let you know that, if you have anything, any ideas, any changes, any concerns, anything that, you feel is necessary to, or important to communicate that we still have that avenue open.
Perfect. Do you have anything, Martha, that will need to relay to these people?
Well,
Or advisory guide?
our biggest concern when we found out about the government consolidation is related to corrections, is that we would lose Nate. Because we thought that we would be sent someone from Des Moines that had no idea about our people. Nate has been doing his job long enough that he has a really good handle on some of our more dangerous, people that get up on the risk side of it. And so we're able to reach out when defense counsel proposes something that we may not initially agree with. We're able to reach out to Nate, and then he can respond, or he stops it with his supervisor about some solutions. Immigration is one of the issues that we touch base with Nate on. We actually do have a fairly dangerous inmate down in our jail right now who is racking up medical bills. But Nate was able to provide us information early on about some really dangerous activities of this defendant that we have on our charges that he had been committing in Florida and other states. So it's not just on the probation side, but Nate is able to help us stay linked in on other issues as well.
And Nate, you don't see your role changing then moving
I
forward?
don't, no, I think so far I haven't heard anything, so same old with me, so. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in and wanting to keep that line of communication open. I mean, I think our concern, not just with the judicial district, but mental health and taking these roles away from us and moving that advisory role of how much our voice is gonna be heard. That's concerning to us. So I appreciate you going around to the counties and keeping that dialogue open.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
What do you think they'll take juvenile detention over?
What's that?
What do you think they'll take, state will take juvenile?
Never. Costs too much. Pretty good at advising.
Still make us pay for it.
Still make us pay for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, next up on the agenda is a discussion with Riley Gibson. Riley, if you want to come forward, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, good morning. Yep, I just have a quick update. I feel like it's been a while since I've got to give a proper update about what we have going on and hopefully answer any questions that you may have, but just to keep it formal, my name's Riley Gibson. I work for Turnkey Logistics and represent Summit Carbon Solutions, predominantly on the non-environmental permitting side, but hopefully I can answer just a little bit of everything. If I can't, I can find somebody who can. But yeah, just to start things off, I'll pass these around. It's just a folder with some handouts in there. Like what one? Would you like one too?
Please, if you leave one for Jean.
I can do
If you have
that.
enough, that would be great.
Yep, and y'all just pass those around, and I think there will be one coming around. Oh, you got one for Jean as well. Okay.
We're good.
So to get things kicked off, we're still hanging out the IUB process. I think we still have a couple more weeks, at least, of the IUB process before they go into recess and make their final decision. Yesterday, it seems like every time I show up here, something happens before I come up. We got denied our South Dakota permit pretty quickly yesterday. It's a little bit different than North Dakota. But North Dakota, I think we're expecting a decision now, what that decision entails and what's on the table for that decision.
So you reapplied in North Dakota?
We reapplied, I think it was that week that I showed up and discussed it a little bit. We reapplied that Friday. So there's a decision on the table that we should be hearing back from, I believe, sometime this week, maybe. I've heard as soon as Friday. So we're waiting to hear. I don't know exactly what's on the table with that decision. I think it may be, if we're gonna have to go through the whole process again, kind of starting from scratch with the permitting process, or if they're gonna take our revisions and we'll just go from there. South Dakota's a little bit different. I think, similar to what happened in Iowa, kind of going through the process, a few counties have passed some ordinances that made it a little hard based on the current route to navigate those ordinances. And so when Navigator got denied preemption on those ordinances, you know, we were expecting to, have the same thing happen. So right now, you know, we, got denied the permit. And, we're gonna go back to the table and try to navigate those ordinances. So that's the, kind of the route. So it may be a little bit slower of a process. I know there's a lot of heads together. We respect the South Dakota's decision and we're gonna work to see how we can figure it out. So.
How does that affect you here in Iowa then? You know, cause we were told that the setbacks were all state level stuff.
Yeah.
And it has to go through that board, but obviously there must be some different language in their legislation or their laws.
Yeah.
Because they've, obviously taken that into consideration, which even legal advice told us that it had nothing to do with you guys. That yeah.
Yeah, and I think that just has to do with how every state's language is a little bit different. Their codes are a little bit different. In Iowa, at least, you know, we kind of had a court case or a federal decision or kind of a temporary injunction, on preemption, which kind of, we're still gonna have to go through the IB and ask them for preemption. So at the end of the day, we could very well, end up in a similar situation where we have to figure out a couple of ordinances, but at least in Iowa, we have a federal judge that's kind of given us a temporary injunction and a little bit of a precedence when it comes to that. I'm not aware of anything like that in South Dakota or North Dakota for that matter. So I think they're just gonna have to figure out how to either, I think it similar to, you know, some ordinances that we've seen popping up in Iowa a little bit. There's opportunities to, if you're in violation of the ordinance, to get with the Board of Adjustments and see if you can work out kind of an exception in certain areas. So I think there's a lot of people getting together trying to figure out if that's an option as well, or if there's routes that need to be moved or.
Riley, do you plan on, Summit plan on moving forward with construction if it's not settled in North Dakota and South Dakota?
Yeah, in that, I haven't had any direction on that. I can see it slowing us down with construction a little bit. Nobody's told me that for sure. I think, you know, we were planning, and things moved pretty fast, or they have pretty fast with North Dakota and South Dakota and trying to play catch up. But, you know, we were planning Q1 into Q2, possibly start construction in Iowa if we get our IUB permit. Now with, you know, South Dakota, potentially being on the back burner for a little bit and still trying to figure out North Dakota. I would imagine there's some serious hurdles to get over before we can really even consider starting construction in Iowa. I haven't heard that for a fact. That's just me. That's not Summit. But realistically, I don't really know their plans, but hopefully we get some rollout and, you know, we're still moving right along like normal in Iowa. So we're hoping that things continue that way. But yeah, that's kind of we don't have necessarily a plan in place, or that I've heard.
Where are you currently at in Crawford County for a sign up?
We're at 88%. So 21.5 miles in Iowa, or I mean in Crawford County. And we're at 74 for Iowa, so that's 503 miles. I think we even signed maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles last week in Iowa. Which I think we were, that was a note to me, because I think, you know, just like a lot of people were sitting around on our hands with the IUB process going through. So I think we all kind of anticipated negotiations to slow a little bit, and everybody getting back out in the field and crops getting ready to get pulled. So it was nice to see that. So I know they're still negotiating, and they're gonna do that through the whole process, so.
But I was surprised, I guess, we get the emails through the, you know, IUB.
Yeah.
And with anything in a Schedule H, or any of those update, we get that. And so I was surprised too, I guess, within the last week, 10 days, that there was updates. I mean, you guys had signed more easements in counties. And so I agree with you. I was surprised. I thought it would come to a screeching halt.
Screeching halt, yeah. I mean, just like everybody on the Summit team, I was surprised there was anybody that wouldn't stuck to the IUB in some capacity, that they were able to go out and do some negotiating, but that's continuing.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Something that's been ringing through my head lately. What's the big fellow that's engineer or
Isaac.
Isaac?
Yeah,
Okay.
construction manager.
Yeah. He'd made comments to where he'd made especially the Soldier River and then on the Boyer and around the railroad, where he was gonna go deeper and wider with your move down.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get something in writing on that.
Okay.
Where he's gonna do that, you know, and other specific areas that we're
Mhm.
concerned, because we worry about that channel of the Soldier in particular.
Yeah.
And every flood comes in, that sucker moves, and you know, considering that the Satarsha was erosion related.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my big concern. Obviously, you already know that. I would like to have something in writing on the
Yeah.
numbers. Cause I will run straight to Des Moines if you don't do that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
I just, those were probably my two biggest concerns as far as that Satarsha safety aspect. I mean, you meeting some of our concerns in that regard. And if we could get that, you know, I mean, obviously Paul's got some things we've been talking with Paul about on the roads and stuff to make sure that they're gonna be in good shape again. But you guys have been, you know, good to work with on that. So I don't see any troubles. We are worried about some of our economics on having to have people out there other than the inspector that you pay for. So, but we'll deal with that with you as we come. You know, I mean, obviously you guys got your hands full right now in Fort Dodge, I should say, not in Des Moines, but you got your hands full up there. But these are things that, you know, as we, you know, assuming that we're continuing to march, just like you said, you know, we're continuing to march as if we got a job to do.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably our attitude should be the same here, you know, is that we're continuing to march as if we've got a job to do. So
Yeah.
if we could get some of them things done.
I think, yeah, and we, you know, we kind of broad level, discussed lateral migration and
Yeah.
some of the things we were gonna implement, but I think I could go back to, you know, Isaac Kiley and say, hey, Soldier River, you know, what changes have we made to protect the Soldier River? How far do we extend? How, you know, maybe get a final, maybe a drawing, that shows, maybe an engineer drawing that shows our crossing of
Amen.
the boy, or the Soldier and, you know, potentially the Boyer, even though it was designated a low risk, you know, we want to keep everything
Well,
above board,
that's,
but
and he said that day, but he also said that, you know, basically in the airs of keeping some sanity here at this
Yeah.
board. I mean, I appreciated that. you
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's one of the reasons we're trying to work with you, is because you appear to be trying to work with us. You know?
it was nice for our notes to line up too, because you brought up Soldier River maybe a few months before we had that discussion here of how it can move pretty quick sometimes, especially with from rainfall, and then going back and looking at our lateral migration study and seeing like, oh yeah, this is a high risk river. It moves all over the place, and you know, here, you know, then we can go back to construction engineer and say, what have we done to, you know,
Mitigate.
to mitigate the,
risk, yeah.
the movement of this river, because it did seem like over, you know, 50-year period, it did move quite a bit. So, yeah, and I can hop right back into here. I know, you brought up Paul, talking about, you know, maybe how to protect roadways. I've sent over to him and also to Colin's office, a road use maintenance agreement draft. For, you know, give them an opportunity to look over, do some red line work. It's pretty cut and dry, so I told them, feel free to add any language you'd like to, send it back to us. We can punt that back and forth a little bit until we get an agreed upon road use maintenance agreement. Then from there, hopefully by the time we get language agreed on, I have some haul roads to take to Paul for, his yes or no on. I think that's gonna be one of the main discussions going forward here for a little bit is, you know, how do we protect the county's interests while also, having some agreed upon language from our side as well. So I'm sure we'll pass that back and forth. If they say it looks perfect, we'll tailor it to Crawford County, and then we'll have that to go along with all the haul roads. So I think the only difference, you know, it's a pretty standard road use maintenance agreement. It'll be, some of the language may be a little different than things I've seen, but it's kind of like a pre-construction, post-construction inventories in there. The one difference is, we're agreeing to film the haul roads before and after construction. That keeps everything above board. That'll be shared with the county. Everybody will be able to go look like, hey, this is what it looked like before you showed up. And then we're gonna film it again. You're like, oh, there's obvious, differences or changes or things that we're responsible for tearing up. So, I think we've also talked a little bit, certain areas, of haul roads, heavy traffic areas where Paul may be willing to go out and blade every once in a while, but, you know, I gotta have some haul roads for him before we can really start getting real deep into it. So that's kind of the next phase for us. So, if y'all would ever like to see the road use maintenance agreement template, I can shoot it over to you as well and,
Sure.
get eyes on it. The more eyes, the merrier. You know, we, just want to make sure the language suits, Crawford County or each county that we're passing out the template for. So there's also counties who've used road use maintenance agreements for windmill projects and other things that they have a pretty set idea of what they want to see. So, there's examples all over the place. I think since the last time, I don't know if we've got a chance to discuss this. Since the last time I was here, we've partnered with 2 new ethanol plants. One's Nugent and Marion, South Dakota. One's Absolute Energy in Mitchell County, Iowa, so up north. So the Mitchell County leg, it's not gonna be a part of this IUB hearing. I think we may have to have a separate one for that one. So right now, they're still very early in the stages of running it up to the ethanol plant in Mitchell. I don't even know if they began land acquisition. I think they're still trying to get a route in place, but they have partnered with it. So I think that's something that's coming down the line. I think they're still looking for opportunities to partner with ethanol plants. I think there's like 48 possible ethanol plants they could connect to just on this western leg, maybe. I think is a number I've heard. So
Let me ask you a question about, since you're on this partner with new facilities.
Mhm.
Like, when let's just imagine that in however many years the dry ice contract is up and you guys would end up partnering with Anderson. Do you have ground there? Are you setting aside ground now? I mean, cause you already moved in towards Denison to potentially hook up. Do you have all that ground already in place? And if there would be other industry that would come in that want to be able to connect to your line, what kind of disruptions would we have? I mean, what's the process? I mean, do you shut that line down from A to B while you're basically, obviously you would, but I mean, what's all that goes through that?
I may be talking a little bit out of my depth, but I would imagine they would have to, unless it was, you know, say it's a tie-off leg and it's not connected to this main leg that runs up from Fremont north. I think they could basically build out that entirety, maybe close the line off just for a second while they fit it and connect it, and then they would start their land reclamation from there. But I think they could, if it's just a leg coming off now, anything as close as like the Andersons wouldn't take as long to build it out. I think we have to get easement through them anyways to cross through. So I'm not on the business side there. I'm sure there's probably been discussions, but as far as timeline I don't think anything's really set in stone, or we have them on our map as a sign, you know, as a partnered ethanol plant, but we do cross their property, so we're pretty convenient. And I think they've agreed to let us do it. As far as I know, I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, if it's a leg that, you know, say like for Mitchell, we have to add quite a bit of pipe to get all the way up to Mitchell. From my understanding, we could build out most of that before we are ever affecting the line that's already in service to begin with. So if that helps.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I was just kind of curious of that, because it seems like that would be another, you know, like you said, they might have to have another OIUB process. I got a couple other questions, right?
Yeah.
All right. You know, we brought up, obviously, the training of our emergency services has been a high concern of this board's.
Yes.
And, you know, I brought up the hazmat level training, tech level training for our, you know, we don't have anybody that, you know, facilitates that. So it's a, you know, if we do have to send somebody to that level, you know, it's a strain on our local facilities. So, I mean, I would really like to see you guys work in coordination with, you know, the other pipelines in our area and even the railroad. I mean, if we could get something where, you know, you did a training in Shelby, you know, it's assuming you go through it, right? But Shelby, you know, and then 2 or 3 years later, you do it in Crawford and Ida, and then be able to migrate our firemen. I mean, it's, the tech level was, gosh, I think, Kyle, do you remember how long that was? It seemed like that was about 2 weeks to a month. I can't remember, but boy, it was a longer class, but it really made our guys competent with the hazard, not just carbon, obviously. I mean, the whole hazardous waste and, you know, the whole hazardous chemicals and all that industry, you know, I mean, and it really is beneficial. And it puts people on hand in our county that can promote the safety and our feeling of safety for our residents.
Yes. And do you know, and this is This is just when I bring this, cause most of the information that y'all bring to me, I take to Kylie or Grant. And, do you know if that was brought on by the specific entities like the railroad or a gas line, or was that like a state?
When we used to do it, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, farmland, Smithfield was owned by farmland in those days.
Okay.
And they had to train their people, but since they were gonna have to have the people in town, they actually coordinated with the fire service here in our county. And would train ours as well, because they had to pay for them to be here anyway.
Yeah.
So we provided the facilities, when I say we, the fire service provided facilities and organized the training for our guys to be there. And basically made it as big of inconvenience, as little of inconvenience for farmland as possible. And it gave them a place to send their people to for training.
Yeah.
And that kind of a coordinated effort, and basically your biggest challenge in that is providing the cost of getting some. I think the guy was actually an old full-time Cincinnati fireman,
Okay.
and he was from DePaul University, if I remember right. And it was outstanding training, I mean, something like that to be provided to our guys. And, it really wouldn't even hurt if you could invite the law enforcement people, where they've got an understanding. I don't know if they'd come. I mean, it's a matter of time, but boy, it'd be even nice, because obviously if something would be an emergency, it's that fast.
Yeah.
The more knowledgeable people we've got on hand, the better. So that's really something that I think that you could go above and beyond. It's probably, but it would create a lot of goodwill with the community.
No, I think those are great ideas. And, honestly, Rod Dillon, the gentleman who's been kind of coordinating with EMAs, and, he'll be the one leading like the major rollout. Actually, kind of what my handout is about today, the emergency preparedness. But I think he is open to any suggestions from counties. What you think the best way is to make sure people are trained up, taken care of, have the right equipment. Over here towards on the back of this handout, it kind of goes through planning and permits. It's kind of a timeline of things. So right now we're kind of in the planning and permitting stage. So very basic coordination with EMAs, and first responders, but, kind of spreading awareness, introducing the project. Rod's, kind of opening the door to kind of get emergency management and first responders, thinking about things that they may need. I did hear, I think Jimmy Powell said, he wouldn't provide any electric fire trucks, so, on the stand at IUB, but I don't know, maybe if we pull his leg a little bit, it sounds pretty cool. I don't even know if they
Well,
make
keep
those.
them running down into where the carbon is.
Yeah. I think, so when we move into the permits received, if we move into the permits received, and we have a set route, that's when, Rod really takes off. And really starts sitting in with emergency management and looking at exactly, okay, what do you need? Starting to develop plans of rolling out training. Because when we move into the prior to operations, we're gonna start the tabletop exercises, which is just bringing everybody into the room and going over emergency response plans. I brought an example I'll pass out. This is just a draft, and we're gonna fill these out with the county emergency management, or Rod will. But it's just the first responders preparedness training program. So there's not a lot of information in there, but it'll be kind of a coordinated effort to make sure that it fits Crawford County when we sit down with emergency management and first responders. So I think I brought quite a few. I'm just pass those right here. I'll leave one for Gene as well. So that's gonna be a big undertaking, but once we understand where the route is, it's gonna be a lot easier to use on the front. It discusses our dispersion modeling, to use our dispersion modeling to go through with each and every county emergency management and first responders. Look at, any potential consequence areas, our dispersion modeling. So PHMSA recommends that, or regulates that we do dispersion modeling on high consequence areas. For Iowa, I think we have less than 2 miles, it might be 1.2 miles of high consequence areas. And my understanding is, those are predominantly when we're coming in town to hook up to an ethanol plant. So there's not a lot of high consequence areas, but Summit has used dispersion modeling for the entire route. That way we can go into, Crawford County, we can look at dispersion modeling with the emergency management staff and kind of develop plans based off that,
So you're
dispersion
talking about
analysis.
like where the flume would disperse to? Is
Yes.
that what- okay.
Yeah, we've done that for the entire route, so from there, we can use that to implement in, emergency strategies for worst case scenarios, because we did the modeling for absolute worst case scenarios, if there was just a super rare catastrophic event like a Savartia, Mississippi.
hear.
We've been able to, look at the absolute worst case, and we've been able to discuss that with emergency management and first responders, so. So that's kind of the plan. We're gonna continue to spread awareness. A lot of this emergency preparedness in this phase that we're at is just, trying to get as many people in the project area to understand where we're at, what to look for. If they're, absolute worst case scenario, we've discussed that CO2's odorless and colorless, but you may see a big old, plume, what they call it, I think, or a big vapor cloud. I've seen a couple example releases, and to me, that was a pretty easy way to determine that there was a pretty catastrophic, I think, one they blew
Some of
up.
this nature, you're gonna know.
Yeah, yeah. If something were to seriously bad happen, there's gonna be a big sound of depressuring. But like if, say there's a pinhole leak or, something kind of small, and there could be an area of some frozen ground in the summer or bubbling in pools of water. Our plan is, we're gonna fly the line every 2 weeks. A lot of that's gonna be looking for things like that or signs of erosion, anything that stands out to the naked eye.
You can surely, like you talked about frozen ground, now, and obviously in the winter, you're not gonna see that.
Yeah.
In the summer, I mean, gosh, even with the thermal indicator, you could.
You could probably you could find some cold spots, I'm sure, especially in the, it might be a little bit harder to see with corn in the field, but,
They're gonna do two things. It's gonna, corn loves CO2.
mhm.
Take it and make it in the grain, but you're either gonna have tall corn or we're gonna have frozen ground and have dead corn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that might be an indicator if we don't catch it with our systems in place. I think even,
well, if I could see a squirrel or a rabbit on my thermal sights on a,
Mhm.
an old reconnaissance vehicle, I mean, they've gotten better technology since the early eighties, I mean.
yeah, and we're gonna have people on foot walking the line at times too. So if we don't catch anything flying over, and if our SCADA system or the people, we're gonna have people monitoring it in real time, 24/7 and AIMS. If they don't notice temperature fluctuation, if it's a real tiny, small, like pinhole leak, and our parameters don't catch it right away, it shouldn't be very long before somebody either sees it. If it harms crop, that's on us. We'll make sure the landowner's whole on that, but, our plan is to make sure those are caught. Hopefully we never even have a pinhole leak and you don't hear about us we're just in the ground running for 60 years like most pipelines, so that'd be my hope. I think it might be everybody's. But yeah, so going back to this a little bit, I think I touched on, so we're gonna have the 24/7 control room. We've talked about that a little bit in our computerized pipeline monitoring system, our SCADA system. They're gonna kind of go hand in hand, make sure everything's taken care of. I think, we're all humans, so it's nice to have those to go in conjunction, having a computer system and human monitoring. I think it's gonna be a pretty good thing. And we touched on it a little bit earlier. Sorry, I'm jumping around so much. So once we get done with our tabletops exercises and, we take care of everything that, emergency management, first responders may need when we go into operations from there. PHMSA regulates that and we've touched on this a little bit, that we train every year. I know Summit has, committed to every 6 months for these trainings, so, hopefully we catch turnover, but also they're committing to if, say there's some turnover, we're sitting, 3 months into that 6-month window and, somebody calls and says, hey, we've had some turnover, we'll come in and train, and do, some more tabletop exercises and get everybody back up to speed.
One way you may take that, but a lot of regional and state
Yeah.
sponsored fire schools that look for help with the sponsors and classes. Northwest Iowa Fire School, the one in Des Moines, the one out in Kirkwood, it would be all good places. for something of this nature.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And I hope they're looking into things like that, but, I bend Rod's ear every time I, get a chance to, so I'll mention that over to them and, but I think that's one thing that they wanna, you know, we haven't got a chance to see because we don't have state permits yet, but once the state permits, if we get them, there's gonna be a pretty big, combined effort to make sure that emergency management and first responders are all in the loop. In conjunction with like the core program and stuff like that. So it's, and we're not, you know, this will continue all the way through operations, so we'll still be here, so.
I got one last thing I want to bring up. In the interest of time, we do have some people waiting for another issue here. Water usage at the collection point. I'd like to get a better briefing on that, what all happens with that. How much will be used, and use our Andersons per se.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in a drought condition right now.
Yeah.
We're looking at other ways to accumulate water supplies. However, you know, we've already got 2 Monogram's not as huge a water user as what Smithfield is, but they're large water users. I mean, so it isn't that we're not used to having water used in Crawford County. However, you know, everything, we have to start looking forward at every bit of water that does get used. So we want to make sure that we have planned, how much wastewater will there be when you're doing this, and what kind of things can we do with that wastewater? I mean, I was actually down at NACO in July, and they actually have where some facilities are using it, like we have a golf course. If you run a pipeline out to there to use for watering there, as long as there wouldn't be any way to damage the grasses. But you know, I mean, to use it for watering the golf course or other things that we might need water. You see what I'm getting at? I mean, they were just talking about different things that the communities have done.
Instead of just dumping it.
Instead of just trying to dump it out into the lagoons or something, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, what kind of things that you guys could help facilitate those types of things? Could you have somebody put together something?
Yeah, and I don't know if they've really gotten that far yet. I know facilities, they're a little bit further behind us. Of course, we have to have pipeline to connect everything before facilities gets real serious. And yeah, I've been meaning to get you some better numbers on that. Seems like, the number I get is, they'll increase the usage by 10%, but that's very specific to each ethanol plant. 10% could be a very big number depending on the ethanol plant and their usage rate. So I would like to get a serious number as well. I think as we continue working with some of these, the water entities and the DNR for wastewater, I think we're gonna have a lot better, understanding of how much we're using, how much we're wasting. I know at least for the one facility down in Fremont, we're not considered an industrial user for wastewater. We fell underneath the criteria that would trigger, industrial use. So I would say that's good news, but, I don't really have a reference to what is a lot of wastewater, besides what just comes out of my house at a normal basis. I'm sure in an industrial level is quite a bit of wastewater. I would like to get some good numbers for you, that's for sure.
You know, if you ain't figured out, my motive here is creating a good community.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm after.
And I think y'all done a great job. I think we really respect Denison and, you know, hopefully we get our state permits, we can grow with Denison. It seems like, you know, based on census data, this place has steadily grown for quite a bit, right? Or have you capped 10,000 yet, or?
No, well, I mean, as far as.
Denison's not 10,000.
Not 10,
Yeah,
okay.
we're kind of, we've plateaued at this point. How's
Yeah.
that?
Well,
But we're always looking for good community partners to help us improve that.
yeah. Well, we hope to be able to help in any way we can. And, you know, at the end of the day, we have to get our state permits. So we're looking forward to that. If we don't get Iowa, I may be in a cabin in the woods before too long, but we'll see. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, do y'all have anything else, Ms. Jean? Or
She's still, yeah, Gene, do you have anything you'd like to bring to Riley? She's probably watching the concert or something.
or the IUV, that's what I'm gonna do after I get done with that. That's my pastime now.
You can
is-
pass on to someone, I guess, that
I'm actually still here. I had to change my location, but I'm hoping that we can get some questions from the people out in the Zoom. I think there's some questions out there. I've been listening intently and I do have some questions, but I think there'll be another time where I can get those answered. So if we could take questions from the crowd, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll give a little bit of time here.
Thank you.
Bonnie, do you have something? I see your hands up.
There,
Hello?
okay, I'm on my phone. I couldn't find the mute button. Good morning. Yeah, I have several things, but I'm just gonna limit it to a couple things because I know you're on a time constraint. Several things Riley said this morning are questionable, but I'll let that go with that for now. First of all, I just wanted to let you know, one of you asked if Summit will go ahead in Iowa without a permit in North Dakota. And at the IUB hearing, Jimmy Powell, the COO, was asked that very question, and his answer was no. So they're not going ahead unless they have the permits in the Dakotas, and that's very comforting. So I want to let you know that. And then Ty, you were right on target there with your concern about the rivers. I happen to be slightly informed about that because Summit wants to go under the Soldier River on my brother's property in Ida County. So I've been investigating that, and as has his family. Are you familiar with the Hungry Canyon Alliance?
Yeah, Hunger Camp, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
right, 23 counties here in Southwest Iowa. And we have talked to the program director there. His name is John Thomas. And he is absolutely appalled at what they're planning to do, because this is so, you know, the river, as you know, the Booyer and the Soldier, the river bottoms are so unstable because of the erodible soil. And anyway, I would just like to recommend to you that you also talk to him and get some insight there as to what you should be watching for. So basically, those were the two things I was going to address. Riley mentioned the plume study, and I just want to mention that Summit refuses to release that to the public here in Iowa, although they have in North Dakota. But it has been shown confidentially to the attorneys at the IUB hearing. So I don't know what's going to come out of that, but it is very interesting and very, very serious to know about that. So thank you for being on top of it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Bye.
Okay.
I just looking at your map here, and I mean, through Crawford County, I mean, don't even know if this map is accurate. I mean, you shouldn't even hit the Soldier River. And if you do, it's gonna be at the beginning, the infancy stage of it.
I do
I
know,
mean, the Boyers is gonna be your major concern, cause it looked like you're splitting kind of Crawford County's natural continental,
Yeah.
the Crawford divide.
yeah, but we do cross the Soldier unless something's changed or Soldier.
That's maybe up in Ida County, you might.
Yeah, it's up in Ida. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
But still, at that point, it's still relatively a small stream at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, it's not very big, and I think
If you were
Isaac
down
wrote down
here-
the,
West of Charter Road, crossing the Soldier, that's a major.
and I think based off of what we gathered from the lateral migration and extending the bores, it would have to move more than it had in 50 years, which I think is something they may need to take into account
It
because.
was with our soil types, and I
Yeah.
only know this because of a recent detention I got called to with the FSA office in regards to some filter strips along the Soldier River that
Mhm.
in the 15 years that that filter strip has been in, we've lost 70 foot from in spots. They thought I was being encroaching, so I requested some old aerial photos of when it was put in, and it's amazing how much we lost, so it does happen.
Yeah.
So dude,
I think it would behoove us as well, say there's a big flood or a lot of rain, to go out to some of these high-risk areas, even if we take into account and just look, make sure we don't have exposed pipe. I don't know how long the pipe was exposed in Satartia, but it was I think, quite a while before it finally gave up, and I think it would have taken some due diligence just to go out there and figure it out.
Bonnie has her.
Bonnie, was it again or?
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, it was again. Like I said.
Okay.
Well, anyways, well, do y'all have anything else for me you can think of?
Money, I mean.
I was just gonna say, Tyler, to promote goodwill, I guess, was something that we talked about, was Crawford County is in the process of raising funds for a new wellness center.
Yes.
And I think a contribution from Summit would,
Talk to that guy right there.
would be.
You would be very high.
Right.
We've raised 4.3 million locally. And as you all know, we're up to, over 70% funded. I'll throw a quick plug in there for the Wellness Center. We should know about the CAT grant and the Western Iowa grant, hopefully in the next month. We did vote yesterday and we have picked out a prospective contractor for the contractor at risk. That will become public hopefully after tonight's council meeting. But yes, Summit has been on our hit list. I know they have had some communication. So we're hoping to break ground on that next spring if everything.
I know I've plugged the wellness center a couple times over
Okay,
there in the
thank you.
Summit office.
If you need a bigger plug, you get my contact.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I know, the people who I normally, pass that information to have been running around like the hair's on fire, so, I'm hoping I can catch them, with, about 30 seconds of their time, but I can definitely, exchange some contact information
Okay.
for you. Cause I think that wellness center is gonna be a really cool thing, and I think y'all are getting pretty close to getting that thing put in the ground, it sounds like, but anyways, thank y'all for having me, and,
Might be closer than you guys.
yeah, yeah, we'll,
I want to say one thing, Riley.
I
I
mean,
mean,
we gotta-
appreciate you being here.
yeah,
And I appreciate you keeping open dialogue and I appreciate our watchdogs that basically challenge what you say so that you can make sure your facts are correct. So that our objective is to protect the county. Obviously, we came out against eminent domain right away.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's no secret. And I think you understand that.
yes.
But I think it shows great things that you're at 88%, so you're working hard to satisfy our farmers, and I would hope that you would work hard to satisfy, kind of like what we got done with the windmills here a couple of years back. Finding ways, if the IUB allows it, I mean, I'm starting to understand this stuff a little better, I think, probably not, but I hope. But, if you can find ways to actually get around those that don't welcome it,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you'd love to do that, and it'd make your lives a lot easier. So I think if we keep working together, we'll probably get a lot farther. And, Kyle brought a good point, but there are other blue lines across. Every one of them is important to us.
Right.
Every drop of water. And it's a great point, Kyle. I mean, and it made me look at the map and I started looking at some other places, maybe
Yeah.
we'd like that road up where you're getting away from them. To add some depth, short term, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let's kind of keep that in mind as we're going down.
Yeah.
If they take some due diligence and put some low head weirs in and stuff of that nature to help stabilize that, I mean.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And these are the things that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we're trying to create an attitude where we can work together for the greater good here. I mean, whether we think carbon sequestration is important or not, it's something that's out there.
Yeah.
And so I think it behooves us to work together. But, and like I said, I like our watchdogs holding your
Yeah.
feet to the fire.
No,
I really do.
It's always a good opportunity for me to hear concerns and bring those to Kylie, and, she's ultimately the person I report to most of the time and
Sure.
bring information to, but we really appreciate y'all working with us and hearing us out, regardless of any sentiment with carbon sequestration or anything. I mean, the open dialogue to us is amazing, and we can implement a lot of strategy, and implement a lot of the things that the county would like, as well as landowners that we have an opportunity to discuss, crossing property and, concerns they have with their property, counties on a broader spectrum, with quite an intricate set of, challenges to cross through it. So, we appreciate it. Thanks for having me as always. And, we may need the wellness center's endorsement. That sounds like.
100,000, room left at 50 games.
Oh, now, hey, naming rights, that gets people going.
Got one left.
Maybe I'll throw in out of my own
Did
pocket.
you have something, Kyle, your hand?
When you're doing your water research, just come up with a new gallons usage, cause I mean, when you save water usage, you're gonna be stopping water usage someplace else to work through your.
Yep.
I mean, when somebody just throws a number out of 50 million gallons, it's like, oh, are we stopping 60 million gallons of usage?
Yeah,
Yeah, good question. That's a good point.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think,
Right,
that, yeah,
if we're
that's
using the
valid.
wastewater somewhere else, and they're not gonna be needing water.
Or
is that what you're saying?
if they sequester the carbon, so the carbon's not going across this Highway 30 and being created in the dry ice, if they use 80,000 gallons of water a day, I don't know, I'm just.
Right.
That's a
and you're
good
only
point.
using
Yeah.
Old versus
80,000
new.
gallons a day to
Yeah,
do what you're
that's a
doing,
good
so
point,
it's a
Kyle.
net zero.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, everybody can throw numbers out there, but until you know what you're actually using or not using,
Excellent point.
it's like.
yeah, in addition to what the
like
ethanol plant would be using.
percentage.
Well, I mean,
unless
if
it-
you're getting all their carbon,
I know what.
obviously the dry ice doesn't get anywhere. What were they using for water versus, you see what I'm saying? You can
Yeah.
basically subtract that from your new water. use.
Yeah. I would imagine we're using a little bit more dry ice.
Oh, I'm sure you
but
are.
It would be nice to be able to at least, compare
Okay.
and contrast a little bit, but yeah.
Okay.
You didn't get it from
If
me.
y'all ever have any
Excellent.
questions outside of this hauler, and we're not, we enjoy coming in and stopping by, it gets me out of the IUB hearing, so if y'all need me to just come hang out and watch a dog retire, I'm okay with that. That was pretty neat today, but I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Y'all
Riley.
have a good day.
Thanks, Riley.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry that it took a while there, but obviously it's an important issue to the county. Would you gentlemen like to come forward here no, wait a minute, I got the county farm first.
That's us.
That's
That's
it.
them.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
here for that.
that's right. That's what you're here for.
Come
I
on.
was
So if you guys wanna come ahead here,
Well, I think they're here
up
for
to you.
moral support or.
Yeah, it's just that,
I thought maybe you had some questions.
no, actually, Kyle quoted Randy sometime this spring about maybe other uses for the county farm, so it spurred this interest.
Okay,
I
so
will
you're
tell
just here to
you,
watch. Gotcha.
My personal, Iowa ranks second to last in the nation in public use ground. It's a known fact. This is a great opportunity to get recreation. Recreation is recruit and retain, just like the wellness center. We need more locations to get people out there on use.
There you go.
Kyle and I have been in conversation the last 2 weeks over this. We've been dealing with Eric out at the FSA. I think you know a little bit about the conversation with your, fair board.
Mhm.
The thing is urgency to get this done before September 30th. The cost share, if it's in what's called the pheasant recovery, it's a 90-10 cost share, and there's a 33% signing bonus, which would be about $100 an acre. And that more or less helps offset the cost of doing the work and maintain it for the first year or two, blah, blah, blah.
Signing bonus comes from,
FSA office.
It's
FSA
part of your
office?
contract, it's a one-time payment.
That was the $11,000 that she said if we have the whole thing done by September 30th, there'll be a bonus payment.
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
So the one thing you guys currently have is a 10% agreement with the tenant.
right.
He gets 10% for the run through of the monetary amount. That's where I think you guys should negotiate if it's going to the fair board, maybe you could increase that if you're currently giving money to the fair out of your budget.
We do, but, if they become the renter or the.
Right.
I
They would
think
get at least
that would
10%.
get that 10% on top of what we normally budget for, in my.
Right.
Cause
Maybe,
Right.
and maybe me as a guy, I think maybe if you earmark that 10%, if they get it, it goes towards this at the fairground, not just their general. I'm just saying, it might be a way to spur this, expansion or,
Or you could go towards buildings and maintenance or.
right, the fund they're trying to raise towards the, I think it's the
New
scale
showroom.
now of the showroom.
I guess Kyle, can you give us a quick
Kyle, yeah, there you go. You
rundown
and
of
Craig give
what the
us
plan would be, what would be taken action on, so we're just.
Well, today, I think if we wanna take action, we need to, just basically approve to move forward with the application process. $300 an acre, 10 years,
Plus the bonus.
plus the bonus. of
That's a one-time.
$100 an acre for the first year.
Right,
Uh,
90-10 cost share on the work.
Yep. So I mean, currently our rent is like $320, so we're gonna be going back, well, we don't know what rent's gonna bring when if we auction it off now.
Yeah.
But this, to me, is kind of what we talked about back in February, March, or it is to make it more than what it is now, make it something the whole county can use or be there for the betterment of the whole county.
And the 90-10 cost share would go towards seeding it and.
The seeding, I can guarantee you, I'm not on the Feds Forever board anymore, but any costs over and above that, I think I could get, absorbed either through Pheasants Forever. I'd like to apply for a Crawford County tourism grant to update the parking lot. Just to give you an idea, I had people from 8 different states that came hunting with us last year. Not pay hunting, just came hunting. So when they come in town, they're renting motels or eating at the restaurants or buying gas. Those are things I think that we don't always look at also as an attraction to Crawford.
JR, do you think the Pheasants Forever would cover that 10%?
I can guarantee you the 10% would get covered. I'm not gonna say by who, but it would get covered.
Right.
It's whether.
92, the 90-10 split.
Right, for.
90
Who
is-
pays the 90?
The government.
Government.
FSA office.
FSA pays
Yep.
that, and then
Yep.
10% would be
Well, we
for us,
have-
but if we can get somebody to cover that.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, and then could we go into an agreement very similar to what we have now that Pheasants or somebody will maintain or work in
Yeah.
maintaining, same as.
so that we never caught any traction with the kids being able to use it or anything. for
The
school.
problem is you have a retired FFA instructor right here, and we talked about, you have to have the instructor that's willing to take care of the plot
Oh,
correctly.
I did check on that, cause through one of our conversations that the school is not in a position or ready to move ahead right now. But if 5 years down the road, it's a prorated payback
Yeah.
to take land out of, but, and KR brought up an interesting point today that through the pheasant recovery program, there'd be food plots established throughout that. So maybe that would be what the school would be fine with, just managing them food
If
plots.
there was ever a school interested in, part of this CRP sign up requires a food plot, so that might be a way.
Yes, sir.
I did have a phone conversation with Mike Pardon yesterday.
Okay.
And, Mike said that currently, correct, moving forward, they were not prepared to enter into anything immediately, that I guess they only have one ag instructor at Denison. They usually have 2, they have a second one coming on board in December. But he said they're not immediately, maybe sometime down the road, it would be something, but he said, even if it was, you know, we put it all into CRP, that he thought that there were some uses from ecology and how agriculture is going from a drone standpoint, that people could go out there and have a place to use their drones, would also be something that he said that he could see it being beneficial to the school in that
Or
aspect.
taking water samples, or
Right.
having this guy go out
Water
there and walk,
samples.
do weed identification, or forms identification. There's a lot
Right.
of, opportunity there too.
I mean, I really like the idea that we can make it a good use for the community.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I really do.
And it's nice that we're not setting rental rates, I think, for the county,
Yeah,
you know.
perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that would, so this all hinges on having it done
By
no
September
later
30th.
than September
So what-
30th.
So what,
Guys, if you vote to do this, I think your next conversation would be with your county attorney to get some type of agreement drawn up with
Fair board.
the fair board that matches what FSA needs. And Eric is working on, I was out there this morning before, I didn't know you guys took it, I didn't know what time we were on the agenda, but she is going to have some background on working with a 501c. Tabitha Panis, who was a former, farm bill biologist for Feds Forever's in Pot County, I called her this morning. She's got a couple examples where she's worked, but I think you need to get that drawn up in the next 8 days. Erica says, get the actual part is easy, it's just who's gonna be named on the,
Have you talked to Brian?
I did talk to Brian and he's reached out to, I'm not gonna say 100% of the board, but an overwhelming majority of the board. I think he said 7 people. I'm not sure how many sits on that board, but they were all in favor of it and all in favor of earmarking the funds for projects specific.
you know,
So
We're out there, you mean.
they're out there.
Well, that's a win-win to me.
That's a big win, I
exactly.
think.
And with that, I might have, because they're gonna be involved, I don't know how, they're gonna have somebody involved a little bit too, and I thought if they would get a portion of that bonus, because they're gonna have people running, doing light work, signing papers as well. Just the true times constraints that we're gonna be faced is gonna be.
Well, I think all you would need is one fair board member as they can decide who that signature person.
But Kyle, we
I wouldn't give up the bonus because you're gonna need that to maintain that. You're gonna have to mow it
We can recognize that through a
the
budget
first year and a
process.
half. I know
Yeah.
some of the bid contracts, there used to be a reimbursement for burning, but there isn't anymore. I guarantee we could get Pheasants Forever and the fire department's go out and do a joint burn. But there will be some mowing, the first 2 years that are out of pocket expense, so. You might wanna hang on to that bonus or half of it or have them hang
Good
on.
point.
I guess we'll have to invoice Crawford County Fair Board, I think, for the work. I think we would have to. That would be a good question for Erica and the county attorney. They'll have to buy the seed, they'll get reimbursed. I don't think I think it goes to the renter. That'd be a good question.
Mhm.
And Kyle, I do have Tabitha this phone number I'm gonna forward to you.
Okay,
Some of those questions she's even more privy on, because that's what she does 24/7.
That sounds right though, KR, they would have to buy the seed and we reimburse them.
And then when they would get reimbursed by the government, all but 10%, and we could decide who,
Right.
or whoever does the seeding to pay that bill too.
Right.
But, well, you guys all know I've been a conservation my entire life. I'm now the governor appointed the DNR commission. Your politics are a whole different level than the state, but it is amazing. We do rank second to the last in the nation in public use ground. That includes city parks, state parks, everything. So,
that's why they're putting a pipeline through our state to, yeah.
okay.
We're working here. All right, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
you being
thank
here.
you guys.
So do you want the motion to say? I think that we have to state that we want to move forward with the application process for the county farm and
CRP.
Yep, I think that's what it should say.
And if one of you could get with your attorney once that's gonna be the verbiage on the rental.
To deal with that part.
Yeah. Yep. I'll make that motion that we go ahead with the application process in the county farm
In the CR.
in the CRP.
Second.
Okay, motion was made and seconded, made by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. Dozart. Is there any further discussion? Gene, are you still with us to vote?
I am still here to vote. Yes, I am. I've been listening very intently.
Okay, do you have anything else that you'd like to add before we take a vote?
No, I think that all sounds fabulous. So I'm ready to vote. Call the
All
question.
right. All in favor, state so by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. All right, now we're down to citizens input. Thanks for your help.
Can somebody just, for your discussion that you just had, it sort of, to me, it seemed like you started in the middle of everybody sort of knowing exactly what was going on. Can you explain a little bit more about what exactly going on with the county farm?
Well,
Yep.
we discussed it a couple weeks ago.
I think-
to begin with.
Well, clear back in March, like I said.
Sure you do.
Gene,
course
Gene, we
it's
hear
our-
you.
mute, please.
You and Gene, we wanted more out of it than just being the farm rented, so. I met with KR and Randy and we kind of started this planning process and now it's come to kind of a, oh geez, it's that time of year and we need to act on it. If we're gonna do anything, or we're gonna put it back for rent. And, I think the board had kind of the idea that let's put it into CRP, public hunting, and then just make it out there for the whole county. And we're gonna probably lose a little income, but I think it's gonna be beneficial.
I don't know if we really lose a lot though.
We might gain it on other things like the hotel motels.
We could go into a time frame where commodity prices tank.
This is
And our rent would be less than 300 as well, but this locks it in for 10 years.
Yep, this 300 is the maximum they're allowed to give for CRP, so.
I think, and and it keeps that open for the use for the schools too, remember that. I mean, that was one of the things that we really wanted to.
But then the fair board would gain off of it. You'd have a hunting, walking trails. Another nature area.
So I'm sorry, so the fair board gains how?
Currently, Jerry Bruce Jr. is our renter and he is the pass-through guy, so he collects that 10% and keeps it. So the fair board would be that pass-through and they would keep 10% of the rental agreement.
Should have explained to him, I guess, that currently we have crop ground and CRP ground out there, so we're currently getting a CRP payment. And we have to have a person's name on there. We can't just call it the Crawford County Farm and we get all the payment. We have to have someone's name on there. So currently we have the renter, he gets 10% of that payment. We get 90% of that CRP payment. And he's paying us rent on the crop ground. Now we're taking that crop ground, moving that into CRP. And we still need a person or an entity and we can use a 501c3 organization. And so that's when we came up with using the fair board. So at least someone, an entity will
We
get
wanted
that
it to
money.
go to somebody that would
Could do some
benefit the
good.
whole county.
Right, instead of just putting Dan Munt's name on there, letting Dan get 10%. We didn't think that was fair.
That would be not fair.
But that started, I think Steve and maybe even Randy was still on the board yet, because we weren't getting any payments because we were another government entity. We'd only get a payment if there was money left over at the end of the year. And then I think Steve found that loophole that if we signed, I don't even know if it was Jerry Bruce at that time,
Just the
Probably Jim
tenant.
Reiser,
right, Jim Reiser tenant that would
because he was the renter for a while.
be that pass through and to reward them, I guess, for their time and the effort to go in and sign the papers and it's supposed to be somewhat managing it, that they would get the 10%. So now with this, at least originally with this 121 acres, the fair board will be moved into that position. And we looked at childcare and fire associations and just, I think fair board was maybe the best fit. That they could
Somebody
potentially
that needs to.
affect everybody from Crawford County.
Exactly.
No more rent auctions.
No more rent auctions. We won't be establishing, which was unique, because last week I did get a call from somebody wanting to know what we set their rent to the county for.
Well, no
Because they
more.
want to base their rent off of that. If it was high enough. If it was low enough, they probably wouldn't want to base their rent
So we'll have two separate CRP contracts out there, right?
off.
Because the other
Yes.
one
Yeah.
isn't. Okay.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
that's something, just what I heard last night at the cattlemen's thing is they're actually considering regulation or legislation where CRP can actually be put in up to 30 years. Did you hear that?
Wow.
Oh, there's some of that that already can be. It's like a forest recovery or something of that is, could go up 30 years, yeah.
Yeah. I just wondered.
That's pretty big crystal ball to be looking into.
Oh my gosh, that's stretching it. And that actually, some of the farmers, they didn't sound real happy about that idea, so I can imagine. Anyway, but for us, for our purposes, I think of serving the whole county better, I think we actually probably do so
I
here.
mean, right, we had the county farm on the agenda, what, 5 months ago? When we started talking about this?
Yeah,
Because we talked about we could sell it, CRP, you know, work with the schools on a collaborative effort.
and we did.
Bunch of stuff that brought up.
And to me, it wasn't
I
a
remember
real
that.
accurate barometer of what rent prices are across the county.
That's true. Okay,
Especially that year was $3.
Mr. Munt, did you get anything else? I don't want to disappoint Gordon. Hopefully you got some news from us today.
Just good if I understand what I write about when I write it.
Yeah. I'm gonna rub you.
And nobody said anything about the decimal points.
Yeah, I just said that. The power of a decimal point.
You didn't catch it.
County farm was rented for $3.10.
$3.10.
Denison paper. Nobody called and wanted to compare that rent that year.
No.
Yeah, no. Good point. Does anybody in Zoom land have anything they'd like to present to the board or ask? Well, Patty's still up there.
We need her, so we need her.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, third.
Motion was made by Mr. Mulbauer, second by Mr. Dozart. All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Have a great day.
So do we want to start to Barstow or?
Let's run that off very quick, because it's gonna take a few days for her to get stuff.
Right, Paul's busy with the trial or something, or?
Ice.
Yeah, Colin's probably busy. That's